Hip hip hooray! It's time to celebrate. In addition to creating with me today, be sure you check out all of the other creative ladies that are celebrating along with me. I've linked in the description all of those who've created videos to help me celebrate, and I can't wait to watch them all. Be sure to click the More button in the description and check them all out. You won't want to miss them. Hello there. Welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly, and today is a day to celebrate. We are celebrating this channel's 5,000th subscriber. So those of you who follow me know that it was a goal of mine to reach 5,000 subscribers before my second anniversary at the end of April, which is coming up fast in just a couple of months. So I come to you with a heart of humble gratitude. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, and I thank you for your support in the last couple years to help my channel grow and to give me an avenue to share my love of paper crafting with all of you. It has been a learning experience and a learning curve, and I have so much more to grow, but I also have so much more to share and to spend time with you creating and doing all of the things that we love. So in honor of 5,000 subscribers, I have 5 two-page layouts that we're going to complete today in one video. I know, it's crazy, but we're going to be creating 5 two-page layouts with the Friends of the Ocean collection. Bright, bold, and fun. And at the end of the video today, I will be uploading a link where you can grab the project sheet with all full color photos of each project and dimensions so that you can create right along with me. I hope you enjoy today's celebration. 5,000 subscribers, 5 two-page layouts. Let's get started creating. It's going to be so much fun. Let's dive right in. We have so much playing to do, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about the Friends of the Ocean collection here because we're going to see it in all of its glory in just a few minutes, and by the end of the video we will have used most of it up. For our creating today, I've chosen 5 of my own sketches of workshop layouts that I've created in the past 5 years. I purposely chose layouts that were popular, easy to duplicate, and that were versatile enough to go with just about any paper line. All of these base layouts are what I would consider simple, and I focused on those sketches or layouts that featured strips or squares just to have a theme to follow. I also chose those layouts that I felt could be elevated but also were wonderful functional layouts by themselves to be sure to hit on all kinds of crafting styles. I did also want to share a few extra layouts that I created with this same line that we won't be creating in the 10 layouts that we're working on today. So you have a total of 13 pages for inspiration, just in case you want to use a few leftovers or get an extra package of paper and create more on your own. First, we're going to fill up the Junk Gypsy tray with all of our bits. We need 5 titles today, and I thought that the free celebration stamp set documenting the day would be perfect. I've already used Day in the Sun, but we still have What a Wonderful Day, Documenting the Day, Oh What a Day, One Fine Day, and a Perfect Day, and I love how this ties together the whole series of pages just with the word day. So we're going to fill up one section of the tray with stamped titles. So I've stamped all of the titles that we talked about in Pumpkin Pie, Berry Burst, and Summer Splash, which are some of the coordinating colors with this collection. For each of the titles, I fussy cut out the day. I cut the longer portion of the titles out in rectangles, and then for variation, I actually used a few icons from an additional set called Mixed Labels. Next, we're going to create lots of bits from the Ocean Friends Stamp and Die set that's included in the Friends of the Ocean suite. We're going to cut some coral in Summer Splash, Calypso Coral, and Berry Burst cardstock. We'll die cut the longer sea plants in Lemon Lime Twist and Calypso Coral cardstock, and then the tiny starfish dies will be Berry Burst, Calypso Coral, and Summer Splash. I do add the Summer Splash here in just a bit. The Soft Waves embossing folder included in the collection is going to give us some great dimension in at least one of the layouts. We'll need 2 2¼ inch squares. The Ocean Friends dies include a crab and a lobster die that will cut icons out of the pattern paper. I cut out a variety of colors of both the crabs and the lobsters. You can refer to the free project sheet for the exact numbers that you need, but all of the colors coordinate, so choose the colors that you think go best with your photos. And don't hate me here on fussy cutting, but the little icons in the pattern paper are so cute, I had to fussy cut a few of them out. I focused mostly on the crab, the puffer fish, and the seahorses. I didn't use any shrimp, but I did use a few of the blue squid. There are so many to choose from, and when you see how we're going to use them, you can personalize the ones that you like best for the photos that you choose. We're also going to need some landing spots for our clusters, and the countryside corners dies and the spotlight on nature circles will be great for some landing spots in some random sizes and coordinating colors. Tags are always a great versatile idea, and you can grab a tag, a die, or you can snip them by hand. I'm using Tags and Tabs, which is an old close to my heart set. I forgot to mention that my favorite die in the mixed labels set is this little distressed piece. Let's add a few of those in coordinating colors for added interest and pop in those dots. Woohoo! The heavy lifting is done. We actually get to start creating now. We're going to start with layout number 1, a perfect day. We're going to use two 12 by 12 Calypso Coral Stripe Designer Series papers and create a 1-inch frame by gutting out the middle. We're going to cut from 1 inch to 11 inches all the way around to give us that 10 by 10 in the middle for some other cuts. Then we're going to add a 10 1/4 by 10 1/4 Calypso Coral cardstock frame, and again, gutting the inside to save paper by cutting from 1 inch to 9 1/4 inches all the way around so that you can reserve the middle. Then we're going to add a 10 by 10 white willow to the center of that. Now you'll notice that I do have a white cardstock base, which isn't necessary. You can actually build on the frames. I just like a little bit more sturdiness to my papers. So next we're going to add strips. So the whole focus of all of the layouts today are strips and squares. We're doing strips and squares to keep a theme and also to keep it simple. We're using Designer Series pattern paper strips at 1 by 7, and we're going to use 9 of those. I'm keeping these pages pretty simple overall today with simple bases and embellishing with die cuts and little bits of stamping here and there, but just know that there are so many more things that you can do to elevate these pages. I'm going to use these pages for a variety of trips that I took with my friend Amy to the ocean. We had a couple trips to Hawaii that I haven't finished, and most recently a trip to Amelia Island, Florida. I'm adding 2 3x4 vertical photos to the left page with double Willow white photo mats at 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 and 3 1/2 by 4 1/2. I love the double matted look, and with so much bright paper, the white works perfectly. For the right companion page, we're going to create a traditional grid with 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 inch patterned paper squares, and we're going to have 6 photos on the right page with 5 of them being 3 by 3 and one that's going to be 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. When putting together my grids, I like to start with the corner pieces and build into the middle, and it helps me get my spaces a little bit more even. I'm arranging the squares so that just a titch of the white shows. Now, because we're completing 10 pages in one video, it didn't leave a lot of time for background stamping, inking of edges, or other special techniques. I do love the pages just the way they are, but also know, depending on your style, there is so much more you can do if you so choose. Now, I've opted to put the photos opposite each other, 3 in each corner, 3 on the left lower and 3 on the upper right. I did crop one photo down to 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, and I put a 2 7/8 inch berry burst photo mat under that one just for a little added interest. And guess what? Woohoo! We are already to the decorating and the embellishing of layout number 1. And because we did all of the heavy lifting at the beginning of the video, and we filled up our junk gypsy tray with all of our bits, all we have to do now is finish our bases of all 10 pages and embellish by shopping our tray. We just get to shop all the little pieces that we've already made and pick and choose anything that we want to out of the tray. Now again, the full project sheet gives you all the details, and I'm sort of laughing to myself when I say project sheet because the project sheet ended up being 20 pages. But actually a full workshop guide of mine is often 30 to 40 pages. So it's not surprising that the project sheet is 20 pages, but you'll be able to download that for free. It will be linked in the description. It will be linked in a card. You can download that and you'll get all the deets. You will get every detail on how each piece was made, what paper it was made on, what size it is, and that type of thing. So when you're watching the video, you can create right along with me and not have to stress about writing everything down or trying to listen super closely to get all of the dimensions. So I've chosen the perfect day for the title down on the bottom, and I think it's kind of interesting. I've never done this before, but I'm using one stamp set for all 5 pages for the titles, and every single layout will have the word day in it, and I think that's kind of neat. So we're going to have perfect day for this one, and I'm just going to arrange the day on the bottom there, and I think I'll leave the D and the A flush, or the D and the Y, and then pop the A up. And I like the idea of just hooking that little seahorse in there and then having that banner hang over the side. I put a couple tags from the tray up in the upper left square, and I'm going to toggle a little crab in the middle of those 2 tags. We're going to use the Spotlight on Nature circles on the left page as a landing spot, and I'll probably pop up with foam tape the white Spotlight on Nature circle, and then we'll do a little scene, a little sea scene on the top white piece, and we'll do a couple little things just to add some special little touches. So I'm going to add those little distressed pieces there on the bottom, that little summer splash, and then I'm actually going to add some dots from the Sunny Days Iridescent dots to the tags, and just adding some of those tabs in a couple different places. So we've got the one lemon lime twist tag above the photo on the left page, and then we've got the lemon lime twist and the little berry burst pattern tag or tag tab over on the lower right. And again, I said this in the cheat sheet or in the project sheets that you can make your tags and your tabs out of anything that you have in your stash, and you can even hand make your tags. I hand make tags all the time. And I love layering. So on the coral circle, I basically layered the coral, the longer plants, put a couple little starfish in there, and popped up one of the die cut crabs. And I love how it makes that little triangle through the page. Now let's take a close look at layout number 1. I'll take a small swoop around layout number 1, and then we get to move right away on to layout number 2. We're doing 5 2-page layouts today. And I think I'm in love with the way layout number 1 turned out. A simple, easy base that is one of those bases that you could reduplicate and apply lots of other pattern papers to. So here we go, moving on to layout number 2. We're going to add 2 frames, and the first frame, of course, is 12 by 12. We've made the frame by cutting 1 inches to 11 inches all the way around. The second one is 11 3/4 by 11 3/4 of lemon lime twist. I get those so mixed up. So it's 11 3/4 by 11 3/4 with a 1-inch gutted frame, which means you're going to cut from 1 inch to 10 3/4 all the way around to just gut that center out. And then we're going to add 11 1/2 by 11 1/2 white willow piece on the top, and then we're going to do strips again. Remember, the theme of all of these pages are squares or strips. So we're going to use strips. And each of these strips is 1 inch by 8 inches, and we're going to actually duplicate this pattern to the right page. So you have 9 strips, each of those are 1 by 8, and then you'll have 9 strips on the right page, each of those are 1 by 8. We're going to top those strips with a 1/2 by 9 inch strip of paper that we're going to die cut out with the wave die cut from Ocean Friends. So it makes that little slant slanted curved look on the bottom. I purposely slanted mine. You could have yours straight across if you wanted. And I'm actually just measuring so that I can get my strip straight. A lot of times I just need to get my first strip straight. And if my first strip is straight, then I can tuck all of those things across. And so because we're doing 10 pages on one video, I've kept each of the base layouts simple. And they're base layouts that were popular. They're ones that I used in previous workshops within the past 5 years that are reduplicatable, that I feel you can apply any pattern paper to a layout of this style and it will make a great layout. You can embellish it just a tiny bit, or you can go over the top with embellishments. So it's one of those base layouts that works for all kinds of paper crafters, those that like all the things and over the top layouts, and those that like very simple pattern oriented layouts. It's just one of those versatile bases that really works. So I've added a little bit of mini dimensionals to the back of the scallop piece that I cut with that little wave die cut that I really love that comes in the Ocean Friends set. And so that's popped up a little bit on both sides. So it has some dimension. And again, you get all of these details in the project sheet, the free project sheet that you can download. So don't stress if I'm going a little bit too quickly. I'm trying to go at a great pace where you can watch and be inspired and get the content, but able to get all of the layouts in at the same time. And you'll be able to have that project sheet to go by, to get all your bits, so you can be real relaxed and just have a nice cup of coffee or the beverage of your choice and watch along. So I'm going to be using 4 4x4 photos with a 1/4 inch white willow base on those photos. So 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and one 3x4 photo that is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 white willow base. I've done my journaling on cardstock and I've cut the cardstock into strips, and I wanted to do that rather than a solid piece of cardstock and rather than doing my journaling on solid cardstock, because I really wanted those colorful background strips to show. And here we are again. We are all ready to the decorating and embellishing of layout number 2 because that base came together so quickly. So again, we're going to shop the junk gypsy tray because we did all that heavy lifting, and we're just going to pick out the pieces that we think are going to look great on this layout. Documenting the day is going to be the title of this layout, and I'm documenting a day that my friend Amy and I spent on a mini catamaran tour, and we went all over the Florida-Georgia line, and we started out at Amelia Island, Florida, and then we did some touring all the way around we crossed like state lines within the water. It was a super rough day, and it was both exciting and fun and a little bit scary. But what was so incredible about this trip is we went into brackish waters, and I've never seen anything like it in my life, where we saw alligators and dolphins swimming in the same water. So it was tropical life. So there were pelicans, and there were alligators, and there were dolphins, and there was just, my brain had such a hard time wrapping around freshwater versus saltwater. And there has to be a way where two worlds meet, and both types of sea life existed. And it was absolutely fascinating to me. So you can see that I've used documenting the day as the title, and I'll probably be doing a couple notches in the documenting the, and so we'll probably dovetail that. I'm using some of those Spotlight on Nature circles to have a landing spots for a bunch of the little bits there. We're going to add some of the longer plants and then add some of the sea creatures up there. It's so fun to just be able to shop my stash, and these can come together so quickly. So we're going to layer a couple tags up above the photo. put a tab in there, and I think we'll probably add a couple little crabs to that and have one of them kind of like crawling out from under the tab and maybe one of them crawling over the tab. And then I love those little puffer fish, so I think we'll put one of the puffer fish flush or flat and then pop another puffer fish up and keep it really simple. I think that, I don't know what those are called, if those are called like sea reeds or seaweed, but we're going to just put some of those up there, and those are in the lemon lime twist. We can add a couple of those die cut lobsters that we cut right out of the pattern paper. I really love Stampin' Up's signature die cuts that cut right out of the DSP, especially if I'm feeling lazy. I really love to die cut out of DSP so I don't have to stamp so much. I love stamping, don't get me wrong. I use stamping on my pages all the time, but once in a while it's lovely to have those really vibrant cutout pieces that are colored perfectly that you don't have to color in yourself. So I'm actually going to dovetail, and I dovetail or notch, as they say in Stampin' Up, by cutting about a ½ inch up and then cutting in from either side of the end of a rectangle to create that little banner look. I think we need to put a little tiny crab coming out of the documenting the day just to stay festive. And I'm actually going to snip apart, I snipped apart a couple pieces of the coral so that I have like a little bit, maybe 3/4 of the coral on the left landing and a 1/4 inch of that coral. So it's really only one coral piece in the berry burst. And I'm thinking that I need to fill it in a little bit. So I'm trying to add some Calypso coral, and I don't end up loving that. So all I really end up doing is adding a couple Calypso coral starfish and then adding another little berry burst crab on the top of that. So you've got the two lobsters coming out, which gives it a lot of height up over the photo, so it's not just kind of chunked in one spot. It gives you this great visual triangle. So your eye goes from the upper left to the lower right and then back over across the other page up to the documenting the day title. So you're really following some basic rules of scrapbooking with that visual triangle. And then of course I've added a little seahorse over on the right and a couple little fussy cut elements over there on that right cluster with another little tab. So let's take a close-up look. I've added some of the Sunny Days iridescent dots around and another little puffer fish to stay balanced on that bottom right, and we did it. We're already done with layout 2, and we're going to cruise right along to layout number 3. Now layout number 3 is going to come together so quickly and easy. This is such a go-to layout when I want to use multiple small photos. So we have two 12 by 12 white willow backgrounds. We have 8 4 by 4 pattern paper squares, and again in the free project sheet it'll tell you exactly which patterns I cut, so you don't have to try to quickly write those down. It's all written down in the project sheet. Now this is totally optional, but I like to add journal lines to things just to help them stand out. So I'm going to add a thicker marker. A lot of times my go-to is my black Le Pen. I use my black Le Pen. In fact, I have about 8 of them and they're all about worn out and it's time to buy a new package. But I actually used a thicker marker so that the black line was a little bit more prominent. These are such bright, bold patterns that black line, as simple as it seems, just sort of breaks up that pattern. I'm also opting to go all the way around the 8 by 8 square. So it's four 4 by 4s, so it makes an 8 by 8 square. So I'm just going to go about a 1/4 to a ½ inch around that whole thing with the marker, and it's a lot of white space. And so some people really don't like a lot of white space. I don't mind white space, but I do like to break it up a little bit. We're going to have a cluster probably in the upper right and in the lower left, so that's going to cover up a little bit of that white space as well. Often people will do the journaling lines around the hole outside, or they'll do stitch journaling lines, or they'll actually do stitching with a sewing machine. Now in the center, I've added a 3 1/4 by 12 inch photo mat strip to both pages, and my photos are, I better double check them. They're not 3 by 3. I believe they're 2 1/2 or 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And these are a little bit funny because these are scenery photos only. There's no people in these photos. And yes, I double checked, and they're 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 inch photos. And I'm just going to shop our tray again and grab some things. But these are photos of that same catamaran ride. And some of them are far away. Some of them are, it was so hard to get photos, you guys, because the alligators were like coming to the surface, and they were kind of creepy and scary, and we were so not very good at the mini catamaran. Like, we got better and better like when we got to like hour 3 or hour 4, but we were like 2 old lady rednecks in this little go-karty boat in the middle of the ocean being brave. And I'm from South Dakota where there is no ocean, so I'm a little scared anyway. Even though we do a lot of lake and dam boating, we do that a lot, and we do a lot of fishing, but the ocean is a whole other animal. And so these dolphins and these alligators were coming to the surface, and I was trying to get photos of them, and it was really hard. And so we were like bumping, and it was choppy, and I was scared, but I was excited and having fun at the same time. And so they're all scenery photos of a really beautiful, like 20,000 acre island in the middle of all of this with horses, wild horses on it. It was so incredible. So you can see here that again, I'm adding coral, a lot of coral to the lower right. So 2 berry bliss coral pieces. That's a tongue twister. And then the upper left is 1 berry bliss coral piece. And I'm going to go ahead with the Calypso coral reeds. So I added 2 to the upper left, 2 to the lower right. And then I think that the blue Spotlight on Nature circle is the Summer Splash is really needed up there to break apart all of the berry and the melon mambo and give that a little bit of a pop of blue. And I'm going to add 1 fine to that, and we're going to do 1 fine day. So I did the stamping in the blue on 1 fine, the Summer Splash, and then on the day. And I'm going to stay true to my little seahorse idea, and I'm going to put another seahorse in between the D and the A and curl his tail there. We'll do another little go-to cluster of tags. When in doubt, tags, chevrons, circles, hexagons, stars. It doesn't really matter so much the shape that you use. Clustering a set of shapes really is a great filler, and it's a great balance of color. It breaks up larger patterns. It works really, really well. So I have 3 tags up there in that cluster and a tab, and I feel like that's really all I need right there. We'll probably put a couple of those sunny iridescent dots on there, and then up there we'll have that little lobster coming out of all the coral. We'll put another one of those berry crabs up there in the corner, and I also love that we have the little breaking up. And then for color balance, we're going to add the Summer Splash Countryside Corner die down there. Now, you can easily, if you don't have the Countryside Corner dies, take a rectangle and snip off a couple corners. That's all you have to do. That is all this is a different kind of a shape. Instead of constantly using a plain rectangle or a circle, if you have a rectangle and you snip off the lower corners, you're going to be able to make a piece exactly how I made it. So I did my journaling on there. I popped my journaling up, and then I wanted to use something different. I have a tendency to go toward those cute little crabs. I have a tendency to go toward the little puffer fish, but I thought, why not get that blue in there? We need Summer Splash. So we've got some Summer Splash in the upper left corner with the Spotlight on Nature circle. We have some Summer Splash then in the opposite corner with Day, and we need your eye to go across the page and across those photos. So we'll put the Summer Splash over in the right corner with both the squid lid and the little die cut starfish. And we'll add a couple of the Summer Splash die cut starfish in the corner. I'm going to trim off one of these little Spotlight on Nature circles and just tuck that behind a tab. And we'll add that little distressed die piece there that I love so much from the labels set. And I have really loved that little, it's so interesting. It's just like a little grate or a little, distressed piece, but it comes out of the die. And I literally bought that set just for that piece. I loved it that much, but I love all the other little labels in it as well. Those are called mixed labels and dies, and so stamps and dies. And so those mixed labels, I ended up loving all the other pieces once I got it, but what attracted me to it was that little bit up there, because I'm constantly using like little strips of paper just to add a little splash of something in a corner, and I love having something else besides just a paper strip. I used to use zip strips or branding strips when we were in Close to My Heart because they were 1/2-inch pieces of pattern paper that were really easy to use. Now let's back up here and let's take an overview of layout number 3. I can't believe we're already on layout number 3 and it turned out great. So now we're going to move on to layout number 4. So here we go. So now we're going to again gut yet another frame, and we're going to gut the pumpkin pie hexagon pattern paper starting out at 12 by 12, gutting it by cutting from 1 inches to 11 inches all the way around. We're going to add some Summer Splash cardstock in there, so it's going to start out at 11 3/4 by 11 3/4. We're going to gut that out to save the interior, so we're going to cut from 1 to 10 3/4 all the way around to leave the most space in the middle to get extra pieces out of that. That's the only reason I gut my frames, is to save cardstock. Now I love that layering, and you definitely don't have to do near as many layers as I do. It's just a signature for me. I absolutely love the layered look. So we have an 11.5 by 11.5 white willow piece that we're going to put on the top. But before we put that on the top, we're actually going to arrange our pattern paper pieces onto it, because it's going to be so much easier than doing it after the fact, especially in case we need to trim something down. So we're actually going to be using 9 different pattern paper squares, and you can almost see my ears with steam coming out of them and my brain churning because I can't figure out what the half point is. And that's how bad I am in math. I always laugh because I'm like, are you smarter than a 5th grader? I am absolutely not. But because it's an 11.5-inch piece of paper, 5 3/4 is the half point. So we want the point of the top square to be at the 5 3/4 mark, and everything will work out great. So I'm simply arranging that into a diamond with 9 squares. We're going to repeat that performance for the right page in exactly the same manner. Now, some of the squares are going to be almost all the way covered. So it's totally up to you if you would like to use a white blank square in place of the pattern paper, or rearrange your pattern papers so that the ones that you love the best show. But I just arranged those randomly, and then we're creating that diamond pattern. Again, remember, we're using squares and strips as the theme throughout all 10 pages. So this is just yet another idea or another way to be able to use squares in a different way. If I didn't say it, each of the squares are 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. Now I'm going to add my photo mats here. I actually want my photos to be popped up. This is actually documenting a trip to Hawaii. My friend Amy and I went to Hawaii several different times, and this is one of those trips, and I really love the flamingo. But Amy and I are kind of looking to the left off the page, and the flamingo was looking to the left off of the page as well. So I actually went back to my PictureMate 400 and to my app, print to size, and I flipped that. So on print to size, it allows you to flip a photo so that the orientation is the exact opposite. I also was trying to get the koi fish in there because I love them, and I just wasn't getting it to mesh with the other photos that I chose. And I'll have lots of opportunities to use that photo. So I actually replaced that photo with some scenery or some greenery and florals, some Hawaiian florals. So again, here we are already. We've already created the base, and we're already shopping our junk gypsy tray for all of our embellishment pieces. Now I did add two 2¼ by 2¼ wave embossing folder white Willow pieces to 2 of the squares. Now, in retrospect, one is not showing very much because it's covered up by the photo, so you might consider moving that wave embossing piece somewhere else. I just didn't want to use it in the exact same location on the right as I did from the left. So if you feel like too much of that is wasted, just move that wave piece up or down so it shows a little bit more. So this one is going to say, what a wonderful day. And honestly, the embellishing on this one is going to be so easy. I don't think that we really need any coral. I think we can use some of the squares and decorate some of the squares, add a little cluster on the bottom of the left page, and really call it good. It's less is more for this one because a lot of those bright patterns in the squares in the background are going to show. So I have that little tag up on the upper left. I have one of the smaller countryside corner dies up there. I have the title up there. We'll add a couple little starfish up there. And then on the lower right, we'll do some larger icons. So we have a lobster and a crab that we cut right out of the pattern paper with the Ocean Friends dies. And then 2 more crabs on the top square on the right page, a tab on one of the photos, and then we'll decorate that day title on the lower right a little bit, again with a seahorse and a crab. I really think we can keep this one super simple. You definitely could do some journal lines or some stitched journal lines around the outside of the Willow white if it's too much white for you, but I also want to tell my story. So I'm going to add some journal strips to this as well, and I think if we want to decorate some of that white space on the upper right, we can add a couple more tags. We're going to have quite a few tags left over, but of course on the project sheet, I'm only having you make just the ones that I used in these projects. So in the junk gypsy tray, I made way more than what we need. So you'll follow that free project sheet and you'll make just the ones that we need for these pages or any others that you want to add in addition to the ones that I chose. So we have a starfish tag up there, and then we also have the summer splash tag up there, which I think is going to be great. I've written out my story on strips, and again, the reason I'm using strips instead of solid cardstock for my journaling is I want the pattern papers to show through. There's plenty of the pattern papers that are covered. As far as the photo mats, if I didn't touch on that, the photos are 3x4 and 4x4. So I have 3 3x4 and 2 4x4. And as true to form, I have 1/8 inch photo mat all the way around in pumpkin pie, and then a 1/4 inch photo mat all the way around those photos in white. Now I had a lot to say about these photos of Amy and I, and this was a trip at one of our favorite resorts, and we actually went to the same resort 2 years in a row. A little bit predictable, but we went to a couple of our favorite beaches from the year before and our favorite restaurants. And since this time, our favorite restaurant, and of course Maui itself, burned. And so actually one of our favorite restaurants was still standing. We just weren't quite sure if it was still open. So those photos are super special to me. So here we go. Oh my goodness. No way. Are we on layout number 5 already? I can't believe it. Okay. So I love this ombre wave paper. So we start out with a 12x12 ombre wave, and we're going to gut it, of course, again, 1 by 11 inches all the way around. I'm going to double mat. So if you don't want to double mat and it's not your jam, don't do it. But I have my original white. That's 10.5 by 10.5. Then I have a summer splash that's 10.25 by 10.25. And then I have a 10 by 10 white willow. I also had a white willow on the base, which we did not need at all. So you didn't have to do that. You could also use the base as your square on the interior and not add a top. I prefer to add the top, and I really love the layered look, but you can get by with a lot less layers. You also can gut all of the layers except for the top white 10 by 10. So we're back to squares again, those same 4 by 4 squares that we used on one of the previous layouts. We're just going to make a box in the middle, and we're going to make film strip style photo mats. So we're going to use Summer Splash, and again, all of these measurements are in the project sheet, the free project sheet that you can download, but they are 3.25 by 6.5, 3.25 by 9 and 3/8, and 4.25 by 8 and 5/8 are those photo mats. I've also mounted my photos on 1/8-inch white willow mats. I have 2 4x4s and I have 5 3x3s. And so what we're going to do is arrange those 3x3s so they're all on 3 1/8 by 3 1/8 white photo mats on top of those Summer Splash photo frames. And that is just how easy that was. That is just how fast that was. We are already to the title and the embellishing. That is what I love about these go-to pages. When you just want to get a whole series done, these are the types of pages that I use a lot in my Simply Scrappin' workshops. So for almost every main line, I do a Simply Scrappin' workshop that's 10 pages, and then I do an elevated all the things over the top Cricut Cut Sparkle and Shine workshop that's 12 pages. But I love these simple pages. It feels a lot less painful, and of course I do it for the creating, so that's why I do the Sparkle and Shine, because creating is my therapy. But if you just want functional pages for your memory keeping, these types of layouts are a go-to, and they're also great for beginners. Even though we're elevating them a little bit with stamping and dies, you don't have to. You can simply embellish them with a few stickers and a little bit of ephemera and call it good, and they make beautiful pages just in their functional, simple base form. So again, we've shopped that junk gypsy tray. We have plenty of bits left over. We're going to use some tags as a landing spot on the left and some spotlight on nature circles on the right and the lower right and the right page in the middle. And these are photos of Jekyll Island. Again, my travel partner Amy and I went to Jekyll Island, and we have that horrible picture of us. We are wet. We are absolutely dripping wet in that photo because we took a hike through Jekyll Island during almost like a nor'easter, and it was misting and raining, and we went off on this really weird, creepy, swampy trail, and we were so freaked out. We were laughing so hard, which is very dangerous for older people to be laughing that hard. But we were laughing so hard because every time a bird would move in the brush, we thought it was an alligator. And never really being in Florida before, we didn't know if alligators just walked around. We had no idea. We were such tourists. And then we made it to the island part, and we were blown away. These pieces, you can see us, if you can see on there, zoom in if you can zoom in. We are tiny little specks in Amy standing in the, I don't know that you call it driftwood. It's kind of like driftwood, but it's kind of just like old trees, and they go on forever along the coastline. It's so incredible. We had so much fun. We were dripping wet, we were dirty, we were sandy, we were muddy, but we were happy. It was so much fun. So as you can see here, I'm adding the coral over here. And so we have the Spotlight on Nature Summer Splash Circle. We have the Berry Burst Coral. I've added just one little Summer Splash Starfish in there and 2 of the Lemon Lime Twist reeds. And I'm going to add the lobster to the top of that. There is a little white Spotlight on Nature circle under there that gets almost all covered up, but it felt kind of good to have a different color landing spot under there. So I guess you can use your judgment on that. And then on the upper left, we have Oh What a Day. I've added the little puffer fish and the little peeking out seahorse to that, a little tab to the top right with a half circle of that Spotlight on Nature. And then over on the left page, 2 Spotlight on Nature circles in the corner and 1 little lobster, super simple. And then a tab over alongside the photos, 2 tags for the foundational base on the upper left with a Spotlight on Nature circle, some Summer Splash coral with a couple of the Calypso coral reeds, and then we're going to add a Berry Burst crab and a couple Berry Burst starfish and add our Sunny Days iridescent dots, and it was just so quick and easy. It just came out great. I've added a whole bunch of journaling in there to tell about this crazy trip to Jekyll Island. So let's take a look at the layout as a whole. And then let's go back through all 10 pages that we just created. I will link in the description all of those people that are partying with me today. I have people who are doing their own videos and they're celebrating with me. My 5K subscriptions, my 5K subscribers. I have a heart of gratitude for you all, and I hope you love my gift of my free 10-page cheat sheet that you can download here after the video is over. It's linked in the description and it's linked in the cards. Let's take a look at all of our hard work that we did today, and let's look at all 10 pages at once. And hey, if you play along with me and you create these pages, I hope you'll find me out in social media land. If you find me on Facebook or Instagram, and you'll post on my timeline and you'll show me the pages that you created and the photos that you chose. Nothing makes my heart happier than knowing that you got a little bit of inspiration or a jumping off point from me. That's the whole reason that I started my channel in the first place. Won't you hit like, subscribe, the notifications bell, share, and definitely shoot me a comment. And don't forget to download the free project sheet and check out all the other people who are partying along to celebrate with me today. Take care. Bye-bye.